Yep. Felt something give. Alright, so my goal for this first prototype was to make something durable using a rawhide wrap and a plank design that's commonly seen in like the buckler for wooden bucklers. The whole goal was to make it durable and kind of get a feel for what historical accuracy would look like. Failed the first objective, not durable, broke on, what was that, our third or fourth fight? Fourth. Just took a hit to one of the planks, broke off. So we have video on that, we're discussing that. But how did we like the feel of it? Max, start with you.
Extremely good. I liked it.
Why?
It just felt way better. Like, it wasn't as heavy feeling. It was definitely like there was a more agile. And it was just like, it took a lot of the energy it took, like, that was hit with it. That made me sense. But
Yeah, sponges.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, it didn't feel like you were basically getting hit in the hand with like a glove on basically. It felt like you actually were protecting you.
Well, and this is also a pound heavier than the buckler we're normally using at club with the steel. So the fact that it felt more nimble and light like that while still being a pound heavier.
So what I think what's really getting it is the wood is, I don't want to say the weight's negligible, but it feels negligible in the hand. The weight is on the boss. So the weight is just at the end of your fist.
Yeah, it's like,
And so it's just
really
like, it feels like doing this, as opposed to holding a pot and trying to move it around.
Well, and I was kind of surprised too, because I was worried that because there's so much weight on the face of it, that it would almost feel like front heavy in a way. But yeah, you're right. It just feels like it's on our fist, and we can just move it. Lane, what'd you think of it?
Well, I didn't get to use it because I broke it. But you can definitely tell from the attacking side that it certainly sponges a lot of the force. If you're not ready for that, it can probably throw you off.
Yeah, probably more of a modern problem than a historical one.
100%. Yeah, I think I fought your rawhide buckler once, and that fully prepared me
Yeah.
for that experience, and it didn't bother me at all.
Oh, the leather one, yeah.
Yeah. Just obviously that last hit where I believe got the cross guard in contact, it looks like it punched out a couple of rivets.
That's what I'm kind of wondering, because it looks like you split the wood off of the rivets.
Yeah, I don't
that's
think the wood
just-
failed.
No.
It did.
Yeah.
And you can see where it split down the long line of the board. That's where the rivet had stopped.
Yep.
That's where the force of the
Yeah.
rivet was,
Okay.
down inside.
So the rivet is what
Next time,
compromised
we
it.
want to try to get that all the way through, so it's in tension, not in
Yep.
shear.
Shear.
Yeah, because that's what happened. It sheared, right?
Right.
So, and the other thing, now I don't know how historical accurate it is. A washer on the back end would
So that.
help a ton to spread the force out, just enough.
Ian, what'd you think of it?
I felt it was a little chunky but nimble at the same time. So it moved fast, but I felt like it got in the way of some of the more complex, more very angular movements. And feeling it degrade in the middle of the fight was a weird psychological the handle's wobbling, and then all of a sudden I just eat a hit, crunches, and I'm fine, but I know that the next hit I'm not.
Well, so that's another good point, is while we're focusing on the catastrophic failure, the handle is wobbly, and Jared pointed out in between fights, the fact that we're using the rivets to secure the boss, the wood, and the handle, probably not as good. Now, this does kind of get to, shout out to the Pick Your First Buckler blog, where I prefer the horizontal fasteners as opposed to vertical because of that wobble. But based on the shape of the handle, there's only so much you can do with that.
But all that said, though, I mean, how many of the steel bucklers don't have wobbly handles?
Oh yeah, they all take their abuse.
It's what fails them.
Yeah.
Right.
Is the handle.
They all get there.
At the same point, at the rivet,
Right.
At the,
I tried to use the rawhide to secure it. I don't think this is doing anything, but I think doubling up the rawhide on the points of contact when you're holding the buckler out isn't bad from just a cushioning impact perspective. It just didn't do what I was hoping it was doing off of the handle.
you could almost make an argument for the doubling on these these extremes to, I mean,
Yeah.
this tends to be where you're, now you could flip it and do the bottom, so you'd have to do both sides, but that
Right.
tends to be where people hit, right?
Where's-
If they come in at a,
Do we
at a
have
shot.
The rusty one.
Yeah, where's the heavier steel one? Yeah, because you can see, like, especially where there's paint, you can see where things are getting chipped up the most, and that's probably where you want a little bit more coverage. Because, yeah, like you were saying, the rawhide, the wood, it's negligible for weight. It's almost all boss.
The other thing that would probably help us a lot, we see a thrust here, left a mark, there's a mark here probably from a cut. We used probably a yellow pine, just framing lumber.
Yeah.
A hardwood, maple, or oak
Something that
would
holds
be
up.
a lot more resistant to the shear force that happened and failed, and even these dents and things.
Right.
Which, if you want it to be robust and last you for the entirety of your 133 training as a priest or whatever,
We have
not
time
a
to
ton of
that,
things
like,
in it.
save the user's life as well before it finally gave out. We
Yeah.
haven't ran it through the gauntlet really quickly.
Mhm.
Your average 133 doesn't hit the yielding times as it brings in the wallet.
Well, so funny you mentioned that, because kind of where I was going with this design was, if you're, in a monastery, part of the class of people who are studying 133, you're, let's assume, just for sake of argument, that they were probably training once a day, no more, so the fact that we couldn't get through a full hour of use with one buckler, I think would make this a insufficient buckler for the training they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Now, there are different categories of bucklers, obviously, ranging from very poor, you have soup lid, all the way to the really ornate ones, because some people decide to spend money on ornate bucklers at the time.
Don't diss my tall hopper buckler.
I know. But I do think this needs to be able to last a lot more training than even just once a month. I think
Yeah.
would probably be unacceptable at those times.
You could also picture a scenario where early on in training, we don't do it, but longsword uses synthetics for knots or whatever, right? So if you were using a wooden sword, wooden buckler at the beginning to start the training, it would last forever, right?
Right.
It might work but it
Yeah.
mostly lasts forever.
So I think the wrapping did its job on cushioning blows, and I think it did a great job distributing impact, because it took good hits, and we can see where it's chewed up from hits. It seems to do that. Where it failed was when it got a direct hit to the face of it.
Yeah, it certainly handled force in this direction better than in this direction.
Yeah. And 133 using more thrust, that is something we're gonna have to be able to deal with. The dents from just eating into the wood, I'm less concerned with, just because really it's just compacting the wood harder. I think we hit a point where it just kind of normalizes to not being a problem anymore. But the fact that we couldn't take a direct hit to the face of it is telling, because it was a stronger hit thrown from the shoulder. It's your messer, but we have thrusts that are going to have similar force, and if it wasn't that cut, it would have probably been a tougher thrust, maybe a closer thrust on impact.
Yeah.
So room for improvement. Obviously, rivets, we're going to need to get those through, which we'll have to recheck the book, but historically, I want to say, they were going through, and that tracks given the fact that our rivets introduced our failure point. Better wood cutting technique, so it's not square. I think that might actually add a little bit to the structure, because this break is right where it's furthest away. So if we just had it a little more round, it could have distributed instead of ending on the corners on the impact.
Yeah.
Need to think about how to secure the handle better. Maybe 2 rivets, maybe something. Some examples did actually have brackets that held them.
And you could even probably get away with using the one from the boss, but you just need a much bigger rivet.
Yeah.
You could probably even do a two-sided rack. Or that will be a real simple rectangle steel.
Right. Well, the goal is to use the museum replicas we have in the catalog to kind of influence it while comparing it to the art of 133, which, take that for what it's worth. Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys for contributing to this experiment. This is version 1 of the prototype. I'm sure we'll get more in. I think the big takeaways was improve the design, make it more durable. Also, wood and rawhide, even if it's linen wrap, does influence our fight a bit. It's worth knowing that in 133 there's a play where it does say bind with the buckler. And we saw that. Once those hits, they stuck. I felt like, especially when I fought Jared, I was able to let his sword hit my buckler and then remix it. Like, it just
feeling
stuck.
with sharps it was even.
Well, it would be way worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it absorbs the energy and it removes some of those quick mutations.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that just you don't have the bounce back energy like hitting a hammer on an anvil, right? Like you're stuck. Now you're pulling back and then going in for a cut, and that slight hesitation
Now,
puts you in a defensive spot.
I didn't feel like it impacted my 133 techniques. Eventually I got used to running along the ride. Though there is friction on this that we're not used to.
I wonder if you could even bypass it a little bit by just the sanding job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think number one, is a good prototype. Craftsmanship overall, smoothing this, flattening the face, smoothing that, getting these joints just really right.
Not making a square, because at one point I actually got my crossguard caught in here, and that's not only did that impact my fight, that also put pressure on our failure point too.
Yeah.
So we have that going for us. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. More to come on this, and we will have some fun. Thank you guys.
I look forward to breaking through too.
You are the litmus test on durability now.
Looks all right.
Yeah, I got a little concerned on this spot earlier, but
Yeah.
that's just the wood filler. Oh, so
Let's see it.
looks good.
I did try to target it a few times just to see
Yeah,
if we could stress it a little.
It got chewed on, but I'm gonna be honest. It feels better than the steels.
This is just not flat wood.
It more bad craftsmanship, to be honest. Especially this spot right here. It was I screwed up the cuts on the smaller planks. All right, you ready to give it a shot?
Sure.
Mid-fight.
You knocked off one of the
Oh, the
rivets.
No, I mean like one of these thingies.
No,
A little bit of the...
it looks well. So you took that piece off,
Yeah.
and you might have been seeing the the wood filler I covered it with.
This is a thrust that I took, the one where I said it was real sticky.
Oh yeah, that's
So
fine.
watch the video for
Okay.
that.
Right?
Yep, it's the
Oh,
white.
yeah, it's the filler.
It's
Yep.
the wood glue or whatever.
But as long as you're taking the hits to the edges, so far.
Yeah.
So far it's holding up.
That was probably where that thrust came in.
On the next iteration, this handle's got to be rounded, at least on the
Yeah.
inside. It was cutting into my fingers halfway through.
It's pretty good.
So
Got a few dents there, but...
a little bit of mud from the fall.
yeah.
Yeah, more thrusts here.
I wanted to give it a lot of stabs.
Yeah, he was definitely a good testing target for that.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the
See
back.
a few dents there.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing too bad.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
I mean, and these rivets didn't fully pop. You can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can tell the shank's still in them, but so this shaft is not as thick as it probably should be.
Yep.
And on the next iteration, I'd also probably put washers on the back.
Well, they didn't go all the way through, so
Okay. Yeah. I wonder if I have ones long enough.
yeah. Rivets are definitely something to look into for the next one.
Feeling it break on me was kind of interesting. There was a crunch and I could feel it start to cave around the inside of my hand.
Mhm.
And I could immediately tell that the weight distribution was off and that it was like not effective anymore.
It was wobbly, or not just wobbly in the
I know.
handle, but
I'm
the
like,
whole thing was
this has
ungainly.
one or two hits.
Well, you mentioned it felt wobbly. Was it on the handle?
The
Yeah,
handle
the
is.
Oh, it was the handle?
Are these
Okay.
nails?
Yep.
It was the rivets just trying to go
rivets.
longer. Yep.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, we'd probably want to attach those individually.
Yep.
the handle next time.
Right.